Queen Lysera stood at the edge of the observation balcony, her slender hands resting lightly on the polished railing. Below her stretched the city of Zythera Prime, a marvel of alien engineering. Towers shimmered in translucent hues, canals of liquid light flowed between them, and fleets of hovercraft moved in precise patterns through the sky. It was a world of beauty, order, and pride. Yet beneath its elegance, Lysera felt a restless tension. Her reign had been peaceful, but rumors from beyond their galaxy suggested change was coming. Today was unusual. For the first time in her life, she was to meet someone she had not chosen herself. A human envoy, sent as part of a diplomatic arrangement, would be arriving at the palace. The council insisted it was a formality, that humans were peaceful travelers who could offer alliances, trade, and knowledge. But humans were largely unknown to Zytherans. Their species had been distant, appearing only in ancient records as mysterious, resourceful, and unpredictable. Lysera adjusted her ceremonial robes, their sapphire glow reflecting the morning sun. Her advisors had briefed her extensively. The human, a man named Adrian Vale, was to be introduced as her future spouse in a formal alliance ceremony. Lysera's mind spun with curiosity. She had seen the holovids, the images of humans in their military uniforms, handling strange machines and moving with quiet confidence. Yet none of it prepared her for the experience of meeting one in person. The palace doors opened with a gentle hiss, and Adrian stepped in. He was tall, slightly broader than most humans in her memory, with dark hair that framed a calm face. His eyes were steady and clear, and he carried himself with an ease that suggested confidence. Yet there was no arrogance. To the alien eye, he seemed almost ordinary. Lysera had expected something striking, something overwhelmingly different. But here he was, quiet and unassuming. Adrian bowed, his posture precise and respectful, acknowledging her presence without hesitation. The court watched in silence, a mix of curiosity and doubt on their faces. Lysera's advisors whispered among themselves, noting his every movement. But Lysera remained still, observing him. She noticed the slight way his eyes flicked over the intricate patterns of the palace, noting details most would overlook. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet she sensed it. "You honor Zythera with your presence," Lysera said, her voice smooth, carrying across the polished floor. "I trust your journey was safe?" Adrian straightened and nodded. "The journey was uneventful, Your Majesty. Zythera Prime is even more magnificent than I anticipated." His words were careful, deliberate, yet sincere. There was no flattery beyond what was needed, only honest appreciation. Lysera found herself intrigued by this simple truthfulness. Humans, it seemed, were different from the alien races she had dealt with, direct, yet courteous. Over the next few hours, the court introduced Adrian to their customs. He participated in rituals of greeting, honored the ceremonial spaces, and engaged with advisors about politics, trade, and cultural practices. While others were impressed by his adaptability, Lysera found herself quietly observing his interactions. He asked questions that revealed insight, not just curiosity. He noticed what was unsaid in meetings, understood subtle tensions among her council, and spoke with suggestions that were practical and thoughtful. In a private moment, Lysera spoke with him while walking through the palace gardens. The alien flora shimmered with bioluminescent colors, the petals responding to the movement of their bodies. Adrian's gaze took it all in, noting patterns and symmetry with a precision unusual for a visitor. "Your gardens are extraordinary," he said. "Every plant seems to have its place, every path its purpose. It feels like the work of generations." Lysera smiled, surprised by his perceptiveness. "You notice the details others overlook," she said. "Most visitors admire the beauty, but fail to understand the design." Adrian's smile was gentle. "I believe understanding comes from observing carefully. Only then can one truly appreciate the effort behind it. There was a pause, comfortable and silent, broken only by the gentle hum of alien insects flitting through the luminous air. Lysera felt a strange sense of calm, one she had rarely experienced. Humans, she thought, might be more complex than history suggested. Days passed, and Adrian's presence in the palace became routine. He was polite, thoughtful, and always attentive, yet he seemed almost ordinary to the untrained eye. The court, however, began to notice something unusual. During strategic games of simulation designed to practice planetary defense, Adrian excelled beyond what even the most experienced Zitharan generals could achieve. He predicted enemy movements, suggested strategies that were elegant in their simplicity, yet devastating in effectiveness, and always remained calm under pressure. Lysera observed him closely. She had been trained to read people, to understand motives and abilities, yet Adrian remained a puzzle. There was power here, she realized, not the raw force of advanced technology or alien strength, but something subtler, something human. She could not name it yet, but it intrigued her, stirred curiosity, and, she admitted quietly, admiration. The engagement ceremony arrived. The grand hall of the palace was filled with shimmering banners, alien dignitaries, and ceremonial displays of light. Adrian and Lysera stood side by side, acknowledging each guest with grace. When the ceremony concluded, Lysera felt a new awareness of the man beside her. He was more than a diplomat. He was someone who carried himself with quiet authority, someone capable of facing the unknown without fear. After the ceremony, in the private chambers of the Queen, Lysera allowed herself a moment to speak freely. "You are not like the humans described in our records," she said softly. Adrian tilted his head, curious. "I hope that is not a bad thing, Your Majesty." Lysera smiled, a hint of amusement in her expression. "No, not bad. Just unexpected. Humans are described as brave, inventive, and resourceful. I did not imagine any would be so composed. You are a puzzle, Adrian Vale." He chuckled lightly, a sound that seemed rare and genuine. "Perhaps you will learn my nature over time." Their conversation was interrupted by a report. Scouts had detected unknown vessels approaching Zithara's system. Lysera's advisors moved quickly, analyzing the threat. The human envoy remained calm, observing the displays of tactical data with keen interest. "Their approach is calculated," Adrian said quietly, pointing to the projections. "They are probing your defenses, testing responses. Any rash action could escalate the situation unnecessarily." The council paused, impressed by his insight. The aliens were skilled, trained, and experienced, yet Adrian's observations cut through assumptions with clarity. Lysera felt a growing respect, realizing this human was more than he appeared. Quietly brilliant, capable of understanding strategies far beyond what her people expected. Night fell over Zithara Prime, casting the city in shades of violet and silver. From her balcony, Lysera watched the lights shimmer and ripple across the canals. Adrian joined her, silent, both of them looking outward. "You are unlike any I have known," she said finally. Adrian glanced at her, calm but intense. "And you are unlike any I have met. Your world, it is beautiful, strong, and full of potential." Lysera turned, studying him carefully. She saw not only the calm demeanor of a diplomat, but a glimmer of something deeper. A strength that was not shown through display of power or wealth, but through quiet confidence, intelligence, and presence. She could not yet name it, but she felt it. In the following days, the palace buzzed with activity. Preparations for the human ambassador's stay continued, and subtle signs of the approaching threat became more pronounced. Zithara Prime was a proud world, confident in its defenses, yet the whispers of distant fleets reached even the Queen's ears. Lysera felt a growing tension, an unease that something had changed in the galaxy, and that humans, with all their unpredictability, might play a part in the events to come. Adrian continued his careful study of Zitharan society. He learned customs, respected traditions, and, quietly, prepared. Every interaction, every observation, was part of a larger understanding that no one in the palace could yet perceive. Lysera watched him, fascinated by the human's ability to blend seamlessly into her world while remaining subtly extraordinary. One evening, as the twin moons of Zithara Prime rose over the horizon, casting soft silver light over the palace gardens, Lysera walked beside Adrian. The air was warm, scented with glowing blossoms, and the gentle hum of alien wildlife filled the night. "You seem to understand this world more quickly than anyone I have known," she said softly. Adrian smiled faintly. "I try to learn carefully. Observation is the first step to understanding. Only then can one act wisely." Lysera nodded, realizing how true that was. There was patience, wisdom, and subtle strength in this human that many would overlook. He was not loud, not brash, not forceful, and yet she felt, in ways she could not fully explain, that he was someone the galaxy would remember. As the night deepened, Lysera felt a mix of anticipation and unease. She did not yet know the full nature of the man she was to marry. She did not yet understand what he was capable of, or what role he would play when the galaxy itself called for courage and ingenuity. But one thing was clear: this human, quiet, ordinary in appearance, had already captured her curiosity, and perhaps unknowingly he had begun to capture her respect. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the shimmer of the twin moons, unknown fleets began their slow, calculated approach, signaling that the galaxy was about to change forever. The days following the engagement ceremony were filled with a mixture of calm routine and subtle tension. Zithara Prime hummed with life, the streets below the palace thrumming with the orderly movements of citizens, merchants, and scholars. Hovercrafts glided across the airways like silver fish, reflecting the soft light of the twin suns. Queen Lysera moved through her world with measured grace, yet her mind often drifted to Adrian Vale, the human she had married in name but still barely understood. Adrian continued to observe the palace and its people with quiet attentiveness. He learned the nuances of Zitharan etiquette, the subtle hierarchies among the council, and the intricate patterns of their politics. To many he seemed almost passive, merely polite and attentive. But Lysera saw otherwise. There was a sharpness in his mind, a capacity to notice what others missed. He asked questions that seemed simple, yet the answers revealed deeper truths. He spotted alliances, rivalries, and hidden motivations with uncanny precision. One afternoon, Lysera invited him to the central war chamber of the palace. The room was enormous, circular, with holographic projections of the galaxy floating above the polished floor. Star systems shimmered in bright colors, fleets traced their courses in intricate patterns, and distant planets rotated slowly in orbit. The council often used the chamber to simulate battles and strategize defense plans, and today they intended to show Adrian the current state of Zithara's military. Adrian's eyes scanned the projections. He did not speak immediately, but his fingers traced the paths of alien fleets, noting points of strength and weakness. Lysera watched him, curious to see what he would say. "The simulations are accurate," he said finally, his voice calm but confident. "But there are gaps. Your scouts are skilled, but there are blind spots in these sectors. Any enemy with even basic strategy could exploit them." The council murmured, slightly unsettled. Lysera noticed the subtle shift in Adrian's demeanor. He was no longer the polite diplomat observing customs. He was now someone calculating, analyzing, preparing for threats they had not fully considered. "You are suggesting we improve our surveillance and response protocols?" Lysera asked. Adrian nodded. "Yes, and also consider variations in fleet formations. Predictable patterns can be anticipated. Flexibility is the key to maintaining an advantage." Lysera's respect for him deepened. Humans, she realized, had a different kind of intelligence: creative, adaptable, and practical. Whereas Zitherans relied on careful planning and advanced technology, Adrian seemed able to think beyond these constraints, imagining strategies that no one else had considered. Over the following days, Adrian continued to quietly integrate himself into the palace routines. He spent hours studying the war chamber projections, analyzing historical records of battles across the galaxy, and speaking privately with advisors about tactics. He was careful to respect their customs, yet he subtly introduced ideas that challenged their thinking. Slowly, the council began to notice the depth of his understanding. Meanwhile, Lysera could not ignore the whispers from the outer sectors. Reports of strange fleets moving near Zithera's borders grew more frequent. Scouts had spotted vessels matching the descriptions of the Drathok Empire, a coalition of hostile alien species known for their cunning and aggression. They had not attacked Zithera before, but their movement suggested preparation and intent. Lysera summoned Adrian to discuss the matter. They walked together along the palace corridors, the walls adorned with glowing murals depicting Zithera's history and victories. "The Drathok are approaching," she said, her tone steady but with an edge of concern. "We have never faced them directly. Our fleets are strong, but I worry they may be underestimated." Adrian nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Underestimation is dangerous, but with careful planning and coordination, it is possible to hold them off. We must understand their strengths, anticipate their moves, and use both your technology and human experience to our advantage." Lysera regarded him with renewed interest. Humans, she realized, did not rely solely on technology or sheer power. They relied on observation, adaptability, and intuition, qualities that could complement Zithera's strengths perfectly. In the days that followed, Adrian began working closely with Zithera's military leaders. He suggested changes to fleet formations, introduced new methods of communication, and taught the officers to anticipate enemy behavior in ways they had never considered. Many of the officers were skeptical at first. Humans were unknown, untested in real war, and they doubted that one man could influence the strategies of an entire civilization. But Adrian did not insist on obedience. He demonstrated his ideas through simulations, showing how small changes in tactics could produce significant results. He highlighted weaknesses that no one had noticed and proposed flexible responses that allowed the Zitherans to act quickly under pressure. Slowly, skepticism gave way to cautious respect. The humans' methods were different, but effective. Lysera watched all of this with fascination. She had been taught to value power, precision, and tradition above all else, yet here was a human teaching her people lessons in ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. She began to understand that the man she had married in name was not ordinary. He possessed a mind that could turn even the most impossible situations into opportunities. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting a violet glow across the palace gardens, Lysera walked with Adrian again. The air was cool, scented with the faint aroma of glowing flowers. "You are changing the way my people think," she said softly. "I have never seen the council respond this way to an outsider before." Adrian smiled faintly. "Sometimes it takes a fresh perspective to see what has been overlooked. I am learning as much from them as they are from me." Lysera considered his words. Humans had a humility that allowed them to adapt quickly, to observe and act without ego interfering. Zitherans were skilled, proud, and precise, yet they often relied on what they already knew. Adrian's presence was teaching them to combine knowledge with creativity. Days later, reports from the outer sectors became more alarming. Drathok's scout ships were detected near strategic points around Zithra Prime. Their numbers were small, but their movements were deliberate, testing defenses and probing weaknesses. The Palace Council convened an emergency session in the war chamber. Adrian analyzed the projections with the council, his hands moving over the holographic displays. He pointed out patterns in the Drathok movements, predicting their next course of action with accuracy that surprised even the most experienced officers. "They are testing your response times," Adrian explained. "They want to see how quickly your fleets can react and how coordinated your defenses are. Any hesitation will be exploited." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Zitherans prided themselves on their efficiency and control, yet the humans' observation revealed vulnerabilities they had not considered. Lysera spoke, her voice calm but firm. "We cannot ignore this threat. We must prepare, not only for defense but for strategy that can turn the tables." Adrian nodded. "We should reinforce key points, train fleets for flexibility, and prepare contingency plans. Predictability is the enemy. Surprise can be our advantage." Over the next few days, the palace became a hub of intense preparation. Fleets were repositioned, communication networks reinforced, and training exercises conducted under Adrian's guidance. The humans' methods were unorthodox but effective, blending Zitharan technology with strategic ingenuity that only humans seemed to possess. Lysera observed the changes with growing admiration. The council, initially hesitant, began to trust Adrian's judgment. Officers who had doubted him were now following his guidance, impressed by the results of his simulations and tactical plans. One afternoon, Lysera walked through the palace gardens alone, thinking about the events unfolding. She realized that the human she had married in name was quietly shaping the defense of her entire world. There was strength in his calm, power in his observation, and courage in his quiet demeanor. She could sense that he was prepared for challenges she had never imagined. Later, as the sun set behind the mountains, Adrian joined her. "They are testing us," he said simply, referring to the Drathok scouts. "But preparation and coordination will give us an advantage. Your people are strong, and together we can face what is coming." Lysera nodded, feeling a mixture of hope and determination. She had thought she knew the man beside her, yet every day revealed something new. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and courageous, and she began to realize that underestimating them would be a grave mistake for any civilization in the galaxy. As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting a soft silver glow over Zithra Prime. Lysera and Adrian stood together, observing the stars and the distant flicker of alien vessels moving through space. The quiet before the storm was palpable. Somewhere out there, the forces of the Drathok Empire were gathering, unaware that they would soon face an opponent far more capable than they anticipated. Lysera thought of her people, her council, and the humans who had come so far to this distant world. She felt a sense of pride and reassurance. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and unknowns, yet she was no longer facing it alone. The man she had married, quietly brilliant and unwaveringly calm, was ready. And perhaps, she realized, Zithra's future and the survival of her people depended on his hidden strengths. In the coming days, she knew, the first real test would begin. The Drathok Empire's intentions were no longer a distant rumor. The scouts had shown their hand, and it was only a matter of time before Zithra faced the challenge of war. Lysera could feel the weight of the coming conflict, yet she also felt a sense of anticipation. With humans and Zitherans working together, there was a chance not only to survive, but to triumph. And somewhere deep within, she felt the truth she had begun to understand. The human she had married in name was someone extraordinary, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. The warning alarms echoed through the palace as the first Drathok ships entered Zithara's outer orbit. Their black hulls glinted faintly under the light of the twin suns, moving with precise coordination. The palace council rushed to the war chamber, their usual composure replaced by tense urgency. Queen Lysera, standing at the center of the chamber, felt a chill of anticipation run through her. Adrian Vale remained calm, his eyes scanning the holographic projections of incoming fleets. He did not rush, did not panic, and spoke in a voice measured and clear. "They are testing us. This is only a small contingent. Do not underestimate them, but do not overreact." The council exchanged uneasy glances. They had trained for war, yet Adrian's calm confidence gave them a strange reassurance. The humans, Lysera realized, had a different way of approaching conflict. They did not rely only on strength or numbers, but on strategy, adaptability, and quick thinking. Adrian was about to show them why. "Deploy the first line," Adrian instructed. "Position interceptors to harass their forward scouts, but keep the main fleet in reserve. Their goal is to observe, not to attack decisively yet. We will use that to our advantage." The Zitharan officers moved quickly, issuing commands to their fleets. Hovercrafts lifted from the docks, and starships moved into formation. Adrian guided them, pointing out weak points in their arrangement, suggesting subtle adjustments. His suggestions were unorthodox for Zitharan commanders, but as the maneuvers unfolded, the effectiveness became undeniable. The Drathok scouts approached, firing warning shots across the void. Zitharan interceptors responded, striking swiftly and retreating before the enemy could predict their moves. Adrian directed the counterattacks with precision, exploiting every gap in the Drathok formation. He anticipated the enemy's strategies as if he had fought them before, predicting their tactics and countering them with calm ingenuity. Queen Lysera watched in awe as her fleets adapted to his guidance. The Drathok ships, confident and organized, found themselves repeatedly outmaneuvered. Yet it was not brute force that won the skirmishes. It was strategy, creativity, and the unexpected choices of a human mind. After several hours, the first wave of Drathok ships retreated, having gathered the information they sought. Zithara had survived the test, not by superior technology alone, but by human ingenuity guiding their actions. The council, previously skeptical of Adrian's ideas, now regarded him with respect, bordering on astonishment. Lysera approached him quietly after the battle, her expression a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You fought them before," she said softly. Adrian shook his head. "Not exactly. But humans have studied war for generations. Strategy, prediction, adaptation. We learn to think in ways others might not. I have trained for situations like this. Observation, patience, and action at the right moment make all the difference." She considered his words. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and brave in ways Zitharans had never fully understood. Adrian's calm, quiet presence masked a remarkable intellect, one capable of shaping outcomes even against overwhelming odds. In the following days, reports indicated that the Drathok Empire was mobilizing larger fleets. The threat was no longer distant. The council convened emergency sessions to prepare Zithara's defenses. Adrian worked tirelessly, analyzing enemy movements, predicting attacks, and designing strategies to protect the planet and its people. He introduced new formations for fleets, coordinated with planetary defenses, and trained officers to think flexibly under pressure. Lysera observed the transformations with growing respect. Her people, skilled and proud, were learning to adapt, guided by a human who had mastered the art of strategy. The HFY spirit, human ingenuity, courage, and resourcefulness was becoming evident. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, but Adrian's actions were changing that perception. Despite the preparations, tension mounted. Zithra Prime had never faced a direct invasion from an empire like the Drathok. Citizens were anxious, markets slowed, and patrols increased throughout the cities. Yet Adrian remained calm, teaching patience and observation, reminding the council that panic would be their enemy as much as any fleet. Then, the Drathok fleet struck. Hundreds of ships appeared on the horizon, dark and menacing, their energy signatures visible even from the palace observatories. The war had begun. Adrian moved swiftly to the war chamber, issuing orders with clarity and precision. "We will not fight blindly. Maintain formation, focus on coordination, and use our knowledge of their approach to our advantage. Do not overcommit. Wait for the right moment." Zitharan ships engaged the enemy, energy beams slicing through space. Explosions dotted the battlefield, and the sky lit up with flashes of combat. At first, the Drathok seemed to gain the upper hand, their aggressive tactics pushing Zitharan forces back. Officers struggled to adapt to their sudden maneuvers, and tension rose. Adrian's voice cut through the chaos, calm and commanding. "Focus on their patterns, predict their next move. Split your response. Don't follow the obvious path. Trust your instincts, but coordinate with your allies." Zitharan commanders followed his guidance, altering formations, retreating strategically, and striking unexpectedly. Slowly, the tide shifted. Drathok ships were forced to retreat, caught off guard by strategies they had not anticipated. Each maneuver reflected Adrian's understanding, a combination of observation, anticipation, and human creativity applied in real time. Lysera stood beside him in the chamber, her eyes wide as she watched the battle unfold. "You are extraordinary," she said, almost in disbelief. Adrian did not boast. He simply replied, "I do what I must. Humans have faced challenges before. We adapt. We learn. We act. Strategy is not about power. It is about understanding and opportunity." The battle raged for hours, testing the resolve of every officer and ship. Zithara's fleets, guided by Adrian's insight, held strong. Citizens watched anxiously from observation towers, hoping their leaders could withstand the attack. Each victory, each clever maneuver inspired confidence. The Drathok were formidable, but they underestimated the ingenuity of humans combined with Zitharan precision. By nightfall, the first major engagement had ended. Zithara had survived, and the Drathok ships had withdrawn temporarily. The palace council gathered, exhausted but relieved. Officers praised Adrian's guidance, acknowledging that without his strategies, the outcome could have been far worse. Lysera approached him privately afterward, her expression thoughtful. "I see now," she said softly. "The human I married is not merely a diplomat or observer. You are a strategist, a warrior of thought and action. You have saved this planet today." Adrian shook his head modestly. "I did not save it alone. Your fleets, your officers, your people, they followed through with courage and skill. I merely guided them. Strength comes from cooperation, understanding, and the willingness to adapt." Lysera realized the truth of his words. Humans did not rely on strength alone, nor arrogance. They relied on intelligence, flexibility, and courage. Adrian had proven that even an underestimated species could influence the fate of a civilization. In the days following the battle, Zithara's forces rebuilt, repaired, and reinforced. Adrian continued to train officers, adjust strategies, and prepare for the next Drathok assault. Scouts reported larger fleets approaching, indicating that the true challenge had only begun. Lysera watched him, her admiration growing with each passing day. She understood now that the man she had married, quiet, unassuming, yet brilliant, was her people's greatest hope. Humans, she realized, were not to be underestimated. Their ingenuity, resourcefulness, and courage could stand against the greatest threats of the galaxy. As the twin moons rose over Zithara Prime, Lysera stood on her balcony, looking toward the stars. The Drathok fleets were out there, plotting, waiting, and advancing. The war was only beginning. Yet with Adrian by her side, she felt a confidence she had never known. This human whom she had once underestimated had revealed a strength that could change the course of history. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. Humans, underestimated and overlooked, standing alongside alien allies to defend a world. The HFY spirit, human courage, intelligence, and ingenuity, was now fully in motion, and Zithera would never be the same again. And deep in the war chamber, Adrian studied the incoming projections, his mind already calculating possibilities, strategies, and contingencies. He did not boast, he did not show fear, and he did not hesitate. The Drathok Empire had begun the war, but the human he had underestimated would soon demonstrate the true strength of humanity. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The Drathok Empire's fleet loomed in the distance, larger and more formidable than Zithera had ever seen. Hundreds of ships, sleek and black, moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons glinting faintly in the light of the twin suns. The alarms of the palace blared once again, but this time, the tension was heavier. Citizens watched anxiously from observation towers, while officers rushed to their posts. Queen Lysera stood at the balcony of the palace, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She had prepared for this moment, but even she could not deny the weight of the challenge. Adrian Vale stood beside her, calm as ever. His hands rested lightly on the railing, his eyes scanning the fleet through the holographic projections that hovered above the city. "They are strong," he said, "but predictable. They rely on overwhelming numbers and aggression. That is their weakness. We will use it." Lysera turned to him, a mixture of awe and trust in her expression. "I still do not fully understand how you see it. You predict their actions as if you have already fought them." Adrian's calm smile was reassuring. Experience, observation, and logic. Humans have faced empires before, not with superior numbers, but with cleverness, patience, and strategy. We do not act without thought. But when the time comes, we act decisively. The council gathered in the war chamber, officers tense yet attentive. Adrian moved among them, issuing clear, precise commands. "We will divide the fleet into 3 groups. The front line will bait them, drawing them toward the center. The center, with Zitheran reinforcements, will hold steady while the flank groups maneuver to strike at weak points. Timing is critical. Coordination is everything." Many officers were skeptical. Dividing forces against a larger enemy was dangerous, but Adrian's calm confidence reassured them. Slowly, they began to implement his plan, adjusting formations and preparing defenses according to his instructions. The battle began in earnest as the Drathok fleet advanced, energy beams slicing through the void toward Zithera's defenses. The front-line ships engaged first, drawing the enemy into carefully prepared traps. Explosions lit up space, but Adrian remained calm, issuing instructions to the commanders with quiet authority. Lysera watched from the observation deck, her heart pounding. The human she had married in name but not fully understood was guiding her fleets with precision that seemed almost impossible. Every maneuver, every counterattack, revealed the depth of his knowledge. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, yet here he was, orchestrating a defense that no one could have anticipated. As the battle progressed, Adrian's strategies began to take full effect. The Drathok, confident in their overwhelming numbers, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Ships that had been expected to hold the line were drawn away, leaving gaps that the flank groups exploited. Energy beams meant to destroy Zitheran ships struck empty space as enemy vessels were lured into traps. The Council's initial skepticism gave way to awe. Officers shouted confirmations of Adrian's orders as they witnessed results that seemed impossible. Even seasoned generals had never seen such coordination and foresight. The humans' understanding of strategy, adaptability, and improvisation was unmatched. Lysera, standing beside Adrian, could see the relief and renewed determination in her people's eyes. The citizens below, watching from towers and streets, felt hope. The Drathok were powerful, but they had underestimated Zithara and underestimated the humans guiding their defense. Hours passed, and the battle intensified. The Drathok attempted to regroup and strike decisively, but Adrian anticipated each move. "Divide their forces," he instructed. "Use their aggression against them. They will always take the bait if it promises advantage. Wait for the moment, then strike together." Zitharan and human-coordinated fleets followed his commands flawlessly. The Drathok ships were caught in a series of traps, their formations broken, their numbers dwindling. Energy beams collided, ships exploded, and the void of space was alive with motion and light. Yet throughout the chaos, Adrian remained calm, calculating, guiding, and adjusting. Lysera could not take her eyes off him. She had once thought of him as a diplomat, a figure of politeness and observation. Now she saw the truth. He was a strategist, a leader, and a warrior of thought. His calm demeanor hid a brilliant mind capable of turning even desperate situations into opportunities for victory. As the Drathok fleet began to falter, Adrian directed the final phase of his plan. "Focus on their command ships," he instructed. "Without leadership, their fleet will collapse. Coordinate attacks on multiple fronts and move swiftly. Timing is everything." Zitharan ships struck with precision, energy beams lancing through space to destroy the enemy command vessels. Without their leaders, the remaining Drathok ships panicked, their coordination failing. They attempted to retreat, but Adrian anticipated their escape routes, positioning Zitharan ships to block their movements. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled or forced to surrender. The battle ended with Zithara Prime victorious. The Drathok fleet, once a seemingly unstoppable force, had been defeated by strategy, coordination, and human ingenuity guiding alien technology. The palace erupted in celebration. Citizens cheered in the streets, and officers embraced, relieved that their world had survived. Lysera stood beside Adrian, her expression a mixture of pride, admiration, and awe. She realized fully for the first time the depth of his abilities. He had not only guided them through the battle, but had taught her people the value of strategy, adaptability, and courage under pressure. Humans, she saw, were capable of more than any legend had suggested. "You saved us," she said softly, her voice full of respect. Adrian shook his head gently. "We saved each other. Your people fought bravely. My role was only to guide, to coordinate, to see what might be missed." "Strength comes from cooperation. Today, we all contributed to victory." Lysera smiled, feeling a mixture of relief and inspiration. The man she had married in name had revealed a strength that surpassed expectation. He was calm, clever, courageous, and wise beyond what anyone had imagined. She understood now that humans, often underestimated, possessed a resourcefulness that could change the course of civilizations. In the following weeks, Zithara worked to repair damage and strengthen defenses. Adrian continued to train officers, prepare fleets, and advise the council on potential threats. Peace, though tentative, settled over the planet. Citizens were grateful, respectful, and increasingly curious about the human who had played such a pivotal role in their survival. Lysera observed the changes with pride. Her people had learned to adapt, to trust, and to cooperate in ways they had not before. Human ingenuity, strategy, and calm courage had not only saved Zithara, but had inspired her people to see themselves and the universe in a new light. One evening, under the twin moons, Lysera walked with Adrian in the palace gardens. The air was cool, scented with glowing flowers, and the soft hum of alien insects filled the night. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "My people, the council, even the way I see our world. I underestimated you before the war, and I see now how wrong I was." Adrian looked at her calmly. "Humans are often underestimated. We do not rely on sheer strength alone. Observation, patience, adaptability, these are our strengths. We learn, we plan, and when the time comes, we act decisively." Lysera nodded. She had watched him guide fleets, teach officers, and inspire her people. She had seen him turn near certain defeat into triumph through intelligence and calm determination. Humans were indeed extraordinary, and she felt a deep respect and gratitude for what he had done. The palace was quiet as they walked together. The war had shown that Zithara was strong, but it had also shown that alliances, trust, and ingenuity were equally powerful. Adrian's presence had changed everything, not through dominance or power, but through guidance, insight, and courage. The citizens of Zithara Prime celebrated their victory, and word of the humans' role spread. Other species in the galaxy began to take notice, reevaluating their assumptions about humanity. Humans, once underestimated, were now seen as clever, resourceful, and worthy allies. Lysera felt a sense of peace and hope she had not known before. The war had tested her people, her council, and her world, but through it, they had learned something invaluable. Strength was not only in technology or numbers, but in courage, intelligence, and the ability to adapt. She looked at Adrian, understanding fully for the first time who he truly was. Not merely a diplomat, not merely a husband in name, but a strategist, a leader, and a human capable of extraordinary feats. Humanity had proven itself, not through aggression, but through ingenuity and courage. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, other threats and challenges waited. Yet Lysera knew that with humans standing alongside her people, Zithara could face the future with confidence. The lessons of the war, the victories achieved through cooperation, and the ingenuity of a single human strategist had changed the course of history. As the twin moons shone brightly over the palace, Lysera and Adrian stood together, looking out at the stars. The war had ended, but the bond between humans and Zitharans had only begun. Together, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness could overcome even the greatest of challenges. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown dangers and possibilities. But with humans and Zitharans united, there was hope, strength, and a promise of exploration, cooperation, and enduring peace. Lysera smiled, a quiet warmth in her heart. She had once underestimated the man she married, and the galaxy had done the same with his species. Now, both humans and Zitharans had discovered something undeniable. Together, they were capable of greatness beyond imagination. The stars stretched endlessly above, and under their light, a new era began, a time when humanity's courage, ingenuity, and unwavering spirit would be celebrated across the galaxy. Zithara had survived the war, and in the process, humans had proven their true strength. The future was uncertain, but it was bright, and Queen Lysera, standing beside Adrian Vale, knew that the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.